Hi. Hi, this is Gina. Welcome. Thank you for joining me today. I am excited to speak with you, Taurus and Taurus Sun, Taurus Rising. I just finished recording your March horoscope, and so I was thinking about you, and I felt like this was a good opportunity to just have a little check-in. The astrology of this late winter and early spring is so interesting. There's so much happening, and we're sort of in the beginning of the thick of it, I would say. And so I have two different aspects of this channel. I have my daily astrology check-ins, which is what you're watching right now. And we often talk about the current astrology or some other aspect, a transit that's happening. And it's also a chance to go back and forth and to really share together, talk in the chat, ask questions, and just dive into things a little deeper. And then I also do horoscopes each month. And so I thought right now, with so much going on, this was a great opportunity to sort of combine the two and just have a little chat with Taurus and Taurus Rising about how you're doing and what's going on in the current astrology for you, what's coming up, what's just behind us. So if you have any questions, leave them in the chat. If you're tuning in later, leave them in the comments. I will check in and respond as we go. So yeah, I mean, there are so many things happening. Let's sort of just start to dive into it. You know, one major thing that I'm noticing for you is this Mars retrograde. Mars right now, it's February 19th, 2025, of course. And Mars is slowing down to go direct. We've had Mars at the 17-degree point of Cancer, it seems like, for ages now. And for you, more than most, Taurus, I wonder if some communication has been rising up in your life that is a little bit different. This third house rules communication. And with Mars retrograde here, I just wonder if some difficult conversations may have been surfacing for you. You know, ultimately everything with astrology is healing and it's for our better good. I always want to try to just eliminate any sense of fear that anyone could maybe be bringing to the table. Definitely don't want you to do that. But Mars retrograde can be a little bit uncomfortable. There can be something about it that can sort of stir up feelings of agitation. It could be you that's doing that, or it could be someone else. And it's because emotions are a little closer to the surface for us to deal with than they usually are. So that could be something that's coming up from you or from others in your life. I also think it's interesting in combination with this, just to like further explain this signature. I've been thinking a lot about how for you, Taurus, there's going to be so much happening here in your 12th house. So this will be coming up more and more. Right now, we just have Venus and Chiron there. I say that like that's no big deal, but we had the nodes here recently. But Venus is going to go retrograde in the sign and house soon, March 1st. And then Mercury will move into the sign and house and go retrograde on March 15th. So I feel like there's some real potential for healing with this. This is a real healing signature, so much moving through your 12th house, all those retrogrades. It's interesting because, right, we have the Mars retrograde that's sort of wrapping up now. And like I said, that could have caused like more irritation or agitated conversations in your life, either coming from you or coming from others. And that's not your usual nature. You're pretty steady. But it's interesting because that's so external. It's about your communication. It's about how you are in the world. But all of these retrogrades, the Venus retrograde and the Mercury retrograde that are coming up, are really going to begin in your 12th house. And your 12th house is such an internal house. It sort of relates to things that, time you spend alone, things that you might do that are hidden, your spiritual life, for example, your inner world. It's a very sort of private house. And so I think that these retrogrades for you that are coming up, especially in March, any sort of agitation or irritation or communication that may have been coming up lately related to that Mars retrograde, it's like that lets up and you go internal. And you're just doing a lot of processing and thinking, I think, in March. It's a great time to spend some time alone. I think any time that you spend alone, Taurus, will really be well spent because you're sort of feeling and thinking about the past, if that makes sense. It could be that something happens that causes you to do that. A person could certainly resurface who you haven't talked to for a while or something, but it could just be coming from your own thoughts. You might just find yourself sort of thinking about relationship patterns, having different feelings about the kind of relationships you want to have going forward, the way you want to be going forward. And then I think what's really interesting is as those planets then retrograde into Pisces, it hits your 11th house. I mean, look at this 11th house. Pisces is just amazing right now and will be for the next little bit. For you, the 11th house, Taurus, is about friends and groups. So I think there's some potential for some new excitement in those life areas. Perhaps meeting some new people, joining some new groups, perhaps old people coming back or old groups coming back into your life that you haven't seen for a while and interacting with them again. And I feel like it's like once you have sort of some of this fiery excitement of this Mars retrograde, the emotions coming to the surface for healing, and then you sort of go internal to process and think and feel about who you are now and who you want to be. And you do that sort of personal internal work. Then we have this big shifting in sort of in terms of your groups and your friendships. There's something very sort of high about this. It's kind of almost mystical, spiritual. It's a lot of fun. Venus is exalted in Pisces. Neptune and the North Node being conjunct here is very, very dreamy. There could be sort of a lot of fun potential to be had when it comes to friends and groups. I will say there is some sort of escapism tendencies with all of this Pisces. Be careful not to overdo it with drinking or other substances. And your friends also could be a little bit more prone to that in the months, starting now and in the months to come. This of course is a chart from today. Today's February 19th, but I realize I'm jumping all around. But this house is really loaded, certainly through the end of the month. There's just so much activity going forward, back and forth between Aries and Pisces for the next few months. It's really remarkable, and it's because of those retrogrades. So for you, it's like you do this internal work, and then it pays off in terms of it's like private life, public life. You go into your private life and make those changes, and then you go into your public life and you make those changes. I think also there's something about how Virgo rules your fifth and how the South Node recently moved into Virgo that I want to bring into this. And I did talk about this in your horoscope as well. Like I said, I just recorded your horoscope this morning. I need to still put the video together, but hopefully that will come out later today. So be sure to check out my channel for that if you would like, and I will link it at the end of this video once it's available. But I want to bring in something about this South Node in Virgo as well. The fifth house is all about your joy. It's about the joy you get from the things that you create. So it kind of rules an interesting range of things from your sex life to your creativity, your children, your leisure time, the things you do for fun. It's all about fun and leisure and also creativity and children. So there's something about the South Node here that I think is helping to allow for all of this transformation that you're going through. It's really supporting that because the South Node in Virgo is helping you to release perfectionism and overdoing, over planning, overworking, over criticizing, perhaps, where those life areas are concerned. There's something about letting go of wherever we have the South Node, we're releasing the negative sides of that sign. And the negative sides of Virgo are criticism, perfectionism, over planning, being maybe too detail oriented. But then as you release the negative sides of a sign, it allows you to come into the highest version of that sign, right? So as you release your negative tendencies, perhaps when it comes to your Virgo ruled fifth house, where it relates to children, creativity, and the way you have fun, you may have a tendency to sort of overplan, overdo, be a little bit too detail oriented. And when you release that, it comes more into this place of like really genuine service and wanting to help. The difference between like criticism and compassion, that's the difference. If you see someone who needs your help, um, rather than being like, ugh, why do they need my help? They shouldn't need my help. They should have done this or they should have done that. Being able to say, yeah, we all have things like that, and what can I do? And here's the way that I can help. Um, so that's always good energy to bring in where children are concerned, and we can't help but kind of guide them a little bit more overtly sometimes. But I think that yeah, that's helpful energy towards building um, healthy relationships with children, towards having more fun and just allowing more joy and fun into your life. I always think that there's something about fifth house transits that relates to coming out of survival mode, you know, finding that fun and pleasure and joy in life, not just trying to make money and advance at work and make sure you're safe, but remembering that life is supposed to be fun and joyful and that it's beautiful in so many ways. And how can we tap into that even when things are difficult? I do want to say one other thing before I go that actually is really, really important and doesn't have anything to do with anything I've already said. It's about the current astrology of right now. We have so many planets in fall and in their detriment. It's really interesting. I mean, from the moon in Scorpio, the moon is fallen in Scorpio. It's much happier over in Taurus, um, or it's in its detriment, rather. Uh, we've got Venus very uncomfortable in Aries. We've got Mars quite uncomfortable in Cancer, would much rather be over in Capricorn, exalted, but instead is fallen here in Cancer and has basically been standing still in the sky. Jupiter doesn't love to be in Gemini. We didn't talk about that the other day when we went through these planets. Pisces, Mercury in Pisces, would much rather be over here in Virgo. It's fallen and in its detriment in Pisces. So it's really interesting astrology. I don't think I've ever seen this many planets in difficult houses and signs before. It's not a negative thing. The planets move through all the signs. It's just that sometimes they have to do things a little differently than what comes naturally to them or what's easy, kind of. So I think we have to do things differently right now. It's weird because there's so much happening in the astrology in February, March, and April, but this week there's a little bit of a lull. It's a little quiet in the sky. And we have all these planets in these difficult houses and signs. So I think that we're processing right now, and we're also stepping into this new era and realizing we have to do things differently than we have before. We are different. The world is different. It calls for a different approach in all kinds of different ways, right? Because it's not just one planet, it's in one part of the sky. it's all spread out, mostly personal planets, but Jupiter's in the mix as well. We just have so many outer planets changing sign this year and next year. Very, very interesting era shift. Whether you are tuning into astrology with me or someone else, it really is such a great time to be tuned into astrology because there's so much happening right now. And for the next few months, Neptune will move into Aries at the end of March, which is a really big deal. So definitely stay tuned into astrology, Taurus. I'm not seeing anything in the chat. I've seen some different people come in and out, and I appreciate the likes. And if you did enjoy this video, giving it a like is super helpful. Thank you for that. And yeah, I appreciate seeing you here today. I hope you have a really great day, and I'll be back again tomorrow. Thanks, Taurus.